We continue our unit on cube roots with solving cube root equations. Just as squaring undoes a square root, cubing undoes a cube root. To solve a cube root equation, isolate the cube root and cube both sides. So let's solve these few examples. First, you need to isolate the cube root, just like we did in radicals. So isolate it. That means that the cube root has to be by itself. Is there anything outside the box? No, so this is isolated. And since this is a cube root, let's cube both sides. Don't forget to cube the right-hand side as well. When we cube a cube root, the information underneath the radical comes down just as it is, x plus 4. And this is equal to 8. Subtract 4 from both sides, and we get x is equal to 4. Now let's look at the next equation. Let's put a box around what we're solving for, the cube root. Is there anything outside the box? And yes, there is. There's a 4. So let's subtract 4 from both sides. The 4's cancel, and I'm left with negative 2 on the right-hand side. This is by itself. There's nothing else outside the box to get rid of, so let's cube root both sides. So the x plus 3 comes out, and that leaves us with negative 8, because negative 2 times negative 2 times negative 2 is negative 8. Subtract 3 from both sides, and x is equal to negative 11. Put a box around the cube root. We need to get rid of anything that's outside the box. So the first thing we want to get rid of is add 5 to both sides. We want to get rid of the negative 5. The 5's cancel, leave us with 6, and we still have 2 times the cube root of x plus 3. Let's put a box around the cube root of x plus 3, because that is what I want to isolate and get by itself. I still have a 2 here. To undo 2 times the cube root of x plus 3, we divide both sides by 2. So now we have the cube root of x plus 3 equals 3. Now that the cube root is isolated, we cube both sides of the equation. So the x plus 3 will come down, and the right-hand side is 3 times 3 times 3, which is 27. Subtract 3 from both sides, and x is equal to 24. Again, let's box off what we are solving for. We need to isolate the cube root. Well, the first thing I need to get rid of is anything that's added or subtracted. So let's get rid of the negative 2. That leaves me with 3 times the cube root of 4x minus 1 is equal to 3. If I put a box around what I'm solving for, I still have a 3 I need to get rid of. So to undo something that is multiplied, we divide both sides by 3. So now I have the cube root of 4x minus 1 equals 1. Now it's by itself, so let's cube both sides. This leaves 4x minus 1 is equal to 1. Add 1 to both sides, and we get 4x is equal to 2. Divide by 4, and x equals 1/2. Next problem, and you do want to save some room here, so write small. have the cube root of x plus 5 equals x minus 1. You can see that the cube root is already isolated. Let's cube both sides. When we cube both sides, this piece just comes out, x plus 5, and this side is x minus 1 times x minus 1 times x minus 1. So now I need to multiply this stuff together. So I have x plus 5 equals, when I multiply these two together, this is scratch work on the side, so scratch work somewhere on your paper. X times x is x squared. X times negative 1 is negative 1x. Negative 1 times x is negative 1x. And negative 1 times negative 1 is positive 1. Combine like terms, and this piece right here is x squared minus 2x plus 1. But we still need to multiply that by x minus 1. So over here on the side, I am going to multiply these together. So x times x squared is x cubed. X times negative 2x is negative 2x squared. And x times 1 is positive 1x. Now we're going to multiply everything in the second parentheses by negative 1. So negative 1 times x squared is negative 1x squared. Negative 1 times negative 2x is positive 2x. And negative 1 times 1 is negative 1. Draw the line and combine terms. And this is what's going to equal on the right side. So we have x plus 5 is equal to x cubed minus 3x squared plus 3x minus 1. Now we want to set equal to 0. So subtract x and 5 from both sides. Now let's factor by grouping, because I have 4 terms. In the first set of parentheses, I can pull out an x squared, and that will give me x minus 3. In the second parentheses, I could pull out a positive 2, and that will give me x minus 3. So the first set of terms is x squared plus 2. The second parentheses is x minus 3. Now I'm solving for x, so let's set each of these equal to 0 and solve. And x squared is equal to negative 2. When I take the square root of both sides, we get x equals the square root of negative 2. It's a non-real number, so it's not an answer. And then x is equal to 3, so 3 is our answer.